Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's great to be here as always. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel, and today we are continuing the saga, if you will, of what should be included in the president's executive order on protecting the Second Amendment. Well, if you've been living under a rock, on February 7th, he directed the Attorney General of the United States to come up with a list of things that she feels as though infringe on the Second Amendment rights of American citizens. And when I read this, I get a sense that it is very focused on the Biden administration. And I think there's a pretty good basis for that. I mean, that's what the man ran on in many facets of his campaign, fixing or correcting the evils of the current administration. Got it. Makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of work to do there. However, what I would add to that is that there are so many perpetrations of administrations prior to that that should also be considered for rolling back. There are so many things. I mean, we, the gun owners of America, have an axe to grind going back like 100 years, okay? So when we think about these things, we think about them not in terms of what happened in the last 4 years. We think about them, what has happened in the last 100 years and what can be corrected by the president. So I think that the easiest way to do this, in my mind, keeping with the same trend of, where the things written to kind of go after the Biden administration, what are the things that the Obama administration did that the president hadn't addressed in his previous pass through? And what should he do now about those? Today's video is brought to you by First Form. Now, it's always a question if you're out there buying fitness or health products, whatever it is, nutrition, protein sources, whatever it is, whether you're giving your money to a woke corporation somewhere. Well, First Form is a pro-freedom supplement company, and whether you're looking for a protein source, a bump of caffeine, some vitamins, whatever it is, they are a one-stop shop for that, and I am proud to have them as a major sponsor of the channel here. They helped me stay alive at SHOT Show last week, and I thank them very much for supporting the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel. Go check them out. Tell them that I sent you, and it helps out when you do. Now, really, Obama only got like 3 things done as far as executive actions that are still with us today. And the first one of these is kind of a layup because this is really on mission for the current administration. The first thing that the president should do is direct Elon to go over to the ATF and take a little look around. Just a little look-see, see if everything looks good. Because one of the things that Obama did was expand the ATF. In his budgets, appropriated more funding for the ATF to increase its payroll. For an agency that is supposed to be a tax collection agency masquerading as a law enforcement agency, and we've all seen how that has gone over the years. I think I speak for many an American when I say that they do not need that manpower, and it should be reallocated somewhere else. So, first of all, Elon ought to go over there and look around and see what can be eliminated from that agency. I think there's probably a big chunk of stuff that can be eliminated there. At this time, I'd also like to point out that having an ATF director like Brandon Herrera installed in that position could very much help cut the extra fraud, waste, and abuse in that agency, and he should be strongly considered for that position. And then on top of that, those budgets should be considered going forward. Are those provisions that pay for those officers of the ATF still in there? And if they are, they should be excised going forward. So that is the first thing that Obama did that Trump can fix. The second thing is a rule change at the ATF called 41F. And this may take me a minute, so just bear with me. If you go to obtain an NFA item, a short-barreled shotgun, short-barreled rifle, suppressor, transferable machine gun, et cetera, anything that is regulated under the Gun Control Act and the National Firearms Act, even though these pieces of property are constitutionally protected, you have to undergo a draconian, lengthy sin tax process, basically. So you have to pay a $200 tax, and then on top of it, these items can be very expensive, and the background check process is very intrusive and it's out of date. I mean, we're talking 1934 here. The president can't do anything about that unconstitutional process without an act of Congress. Now, he can sign that law or sign that bill into law when it comes to his desk to abolish that. However, short of that, what has been done in the Obama administration to make this harder and punish otherwise peaceable citizens is when you obtain these items, again, some of them are very expensive, particularly like the limited number of transferable machine guns. Some of those items can cost $1 million, right? If someone were to obtain those items and then transfer them to a trust for the purposes of estate planning to protect them from things like probate court, malicious family members, wills, and all that sort of stuff, to protect those, a NFA trust is sometimes used. I have one of these things, and basically Obama ruined all those. So I'm going to lay this out by speaking from experience. This is an actual real-world example as an SOT that I dealt with a local couple, and we're going to apply the way that it did work and the way that it is currently worked to this scenario. So to define the scenario, we got a couple that are in their early 80s, and they want to acquire some of these pieces of property for their own use, right? Old age, they specifically wanted some suppressors, old age, headaches, things like that, blast, all good reasons to have a suppressor. And ultimately, through an NFA trust, they want to leave them to their grandchildren. And to be clear, these grandchildren are in their early 20s. So we're talking adult grandchildren here. We're not talking about 4-year-olds or anything like that. There is a process for that, but this is not it. They've got this NFA trust set up. They acquire this item, and whenever they acquire any items, both him and his wife and the grandchildren have to fill out all of the individual paperwork on these devices, okay? So that means that we'll say that there's 4 of them, right? There's more because they got a whole bunch of grandchildren, but we'll say that there's 4 of them. Not only does Grandpa and Grandma, but Timmy and Sally all have to submit to an unconstitutional intrusive background check that includes fingerprints, a questionnaire that includes a whole bunch of things that shouldn't be submitted to the government, and a passport photo. All of that has to be submitted in duplicate at the same time with a copy of the trust documents. That's the way that it is currently operating. Before that, before Obama's 41F rule, basically, we'll call Grandpa Bob. Bob would just have to submit it. He could handle the whole thing by himself. And basically, if there was a problem forward of that, then it would be handled downstream by law enforcement, right? So if somebody was added to a trust and at some point in time they commit a serious felony that prevents them from being able to have this stuff because they're a prohibited person, the courts handle that, not the federal government that is so far displaced from this individual situation that it has no business messing with it whatsoever. That is a simple rule change. That is an executive order, Mr. President. Just write it out. And then lastly, today, I want to talk about Obama's importation bans. And we're going to talk about importation bans in other videos, probably like Bush 41 and Bush Jr. as well. We'll probably do videos on those guys and what they did to subvert the Second Amendment as well coming down the pipe. But specifically in Obama's case, 7.6 ammunition. So basically the law says you can't have armor-piercing ammunition. And Obama had the ATF redefine what armor-piercing ammunition means. And basically the basis that they used, and this is absolutely ridiculous. Do you guys all remember when you would buy, I'm going to show my age here, if you went through Walmart and purchased ammunition, they would ask you whether it was to be used in a handgun or not. You guys remember that? Yeah, they don't do that anymore. If there was a pistol that could fire the rifle ammunition, that was considered armor-piercing handgun ammunition. And then it was banned because it could be fired out of a handgun. That was the logic that was used. So they redefined 7.6 ammo, which is the most popular loading of ammunition for the AK-74 style rifle. So think like the Soviet complement of the American rifle. So the modern AKs all shoot 5.45 or 5.56, but 5.45, not really 7.62 by 39 anymore. So that ammunition was the cheapest ammunition available on the market for any gun ever, including 22 at the time. It was dirt cheap, and it was dirt cheap by the nature of it was just absolutely everywhere. Obama changed the rule that said that's armor-piercing ammunition because it has steel in it, deemed it armor-piercing ammunition, and they eliminated a huge source of ammunition for the commercial market here in the United States, driving the cost of that ammunition through the roof. And pretty much today, you can find very few guns of that type available for purchase today because the ammunition is difficult to get, whereas before we were literally using them, the crates, as doorstops because they're everywhere. They would just be bulked out in the middle of a gun store somewhere. Buy a gun, have a case of ammo basically with it types that, because it was just everywhere. Now it's nowhere because of this. And that is simply, again, an executive order, a rule change saying that is no longer to be considered armor-piercing ammunition, which, for the record, I do not agree with in the first place, but it is a provision of law, and the president can't really do anything about a specific provision of law except for where it applies. And, sir, we would like you to go in there and wreck house on where stupid crap like that can apply. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in to the VSO Gun Channel, and hopefully we'll see you on another one here pretty soon. Who should I do next? Bush 41? I think we'll do Bush 41 next.